Hi again, everybody. Scott here from the Joston Service Station, and here is our compilation of videos from Season 4 of the Yearbooking Report. Lots of great interviews, ideas, information, and inspiration to help you create your best yearbook ever. Sit down, grab some popcorn and a drink if you want, and get ready for some great note-taking on plenty of great ideas on your yearbook. So, let's get started. Well, we all know that last year was the most challenging school year ever. And frankly, this year, at least this fall, could be much the same. We'll have to see what happens. But you can still make a terrific yearbook no matter the challenges. Recently, we talked with a rookie advisor from last year whose staff made probably their best book in school history. She shared some ideas and advice on how you can get there.
Hi, my name is Emily Hockenberry, and I'm the yearbook advisor at Towanda High School in Towanda, Pennsylvania. There's really no secret in some ways. There's no magic bullet that I could give people other than you got to get to know each kid. You got to get to know what makes them tick a little bit and what pushes them forward. And then you've just got to grind it out every single day. I don't want to make it sound like it's not fun, because I do think it's fun, but with a big project like this, I think kids can get lost with a big project that has a large end game. You know, they can't see long term like that. So to have someone every day going, where are you? What are you doing? How can I help? Who can I help you reach out to? Who have you spoken to? Have they gotten back to you? Just the constant work of checking in and being with them in the process and not really just leaving them to their own devices. I think that's what did a lot of it this year. We came in and we got started right away. There wasn't a period where it was kind of like the getting to know you period. We jumped right in with both feet and started looking at Yearbook Avenue together and going through those J-class videos and going through all the resources. I mean, because I was so new, I didn't even know how to prepare a lesson, teach them how to do anything. So Yearbook Avenue helped me so much. It was my go-to spot to figure out how to do basically everything. I think one thing that really helped is that I didn't make writing optional for anybody. You know, this wasn't if you come in here and you might be a writer or you might be a photographer. I was like, no, we don't have time for that. We've got too many pages and not enough time. So everybody's a writer. Everybody in this class is a writer. We're all gonna learn how to do it and we're all gonna get better at it. So, we started with captions and learning all the rules for captions, and I really put them through the ringer on that, especially with their fall page. It was very hard on captions. And then with feature stories, I just had them start writing sample feature stories, and we did parts of it together in class. I gave them all kinds of ideas for leads and, structure and how to gear these stories. But we really treated it like we were learning how to write anything in English class, which is, you break it down to its parts and you practice, you just do it a lot. The best books are about stories. They have real content in them. And I was like, I want Towanda to be proud of what they produce. I want the kids to be proud of what they produce. And that wasn't going to happen if we just sat back and took it easy. And part of it is probably my personality, maybe. And believe me, there were definitely people who weren't happy about it. But if you start making a reputation for a class that says the people in this class are challenged to write, to work hard, I think you start to attract a different kind of student who is willing to put in that kind of work and likes to do that kind of thinking. You've got to have a master plan at least a month at a time. I'm not saying that you have to have the whole picture of what the book needs to look like from beginning to end when you start. I think that one thing that would have helped me is to go month by month and really have a plan for what needed to be accomplished when it came to pictures, setting class pictures and things like that. Really, when it came to photographing events, it really is one of those jobs that you have to be incredibly organized. And if you're not a naturally organized person, I completely understand. I am not a naturally organized person. I am a creative in my head person. So that organization doesn't come naturally to me. But When I finally did get a really good process going for scheduling and for knowing where we were in the process, it made my life so much easier, really, to like look at a month and be like, okay, here are the things that we need to accomplish, here's when they need to be accomplished, and to keep the kids looped in on those things as well, because they will help you remember deadlines and keep track of things. They're really good about that.
Well, here in the early part of the school year, hopefully part of your planning is coming up with a cool theme for this year's book. And coming up with a neat theme and working it through the book isn't as hard as you might think, and it's a lot of fun. Recently, we talked to a top yearbook advisor from Colorado who gave us some great ideas.
Hi, I am Jess Hunziker. I advise yearbook, newspaper, and video broadcast at Castleview High School in Castle Rock, Colorado, where I've been for the last 13 years. Casey Nichols, he's one of the Jostens ambassadors. Many years ago was at a workshop that I was also at with my students, and he said, the one rule we have every year is to make the yearbook different this year than it was last year. And theme is the tool we use to create cohesiveness in the yearbook, from the cover to the end sheets to every page in between. Theme is the thing that we can use to make this yearbook different and special and unique for this year's students. So we really want to have themes so that we can approach each year with intention and with a unique perspective, so that, you know, a student who's in high school and buys 4 yearbooks gets 4 different stories of 4 different years that are personal to them. We take the time to study trends in graphic design and in photography and in color, and just like what's happening in the professional sector and in social media that seems like it's going to be relevant for the next year. So we really leverage professional models. We also actively exchange yearbooks with other schools from around the state and around our country, so that we can see what other folks are doing in their publications. And then, you know, I really encourage the kids to choose a theme phrase that can be supported by an actual student story. So kids actually do a little bit of reporting when we do our theme project at the end of the year, to find a kid who's a current freshman, sophomore, or junior, so they'll be at our school next year, and find an actual story that they think makes sense with their theme. And what I found is that making them do that reporting transitions kids from picking pretty colors and pretty graphics to thinking about the stories that'll actually be in the yearbook, because that's the meat and potatoes of a good theme. So one of my favorite books my kids have done, the theme is Exit 184, which is a highway exit. That's the exit you take to go home. That's the exit you take to go to school. Like, our school is right off Exit 184. So when my kids did this book, they wanted a book that felt like home. And home can be your classroom. It can be a place you're comfortable at school. It can be the physical building. It can be the community. And to every kid at Castleview High School, they know Exit 184 means your home. That means nothing to everyone else. And I think that is, I'm gonna just brag on my kids. Like, that's theme brilliance, when it means so much to the kids who go to your school that an outsider is gonna go, wait, what? What's the theme of that yearbook? That makes no sense. However, the theme was really about home. So you get into the inside of the book, and it's really about, it's stories about community and about relationships. And it's stories about the physical and like metaphorical places that make us feel a certain way. You know, you have to have a strong verbal phrase, and then take the time to brainstorm spin-offs, both in story ideas and just in related phrases that you can kind of go back to over the course of the year. And then I think where it really gets important is the stories that you tell within the book. And that's what makes one year unique from another year, or one book different from another book, are the individual stories. And then in terms of visuals, you got to think about photography, right? So if your book is about belonging, then we need photos of people together. We need reaction photos of people sharing a moment. We need those scene setting photos that kind of establish a setting for the characters in the story, right? The book. And then, when it comes to fonts and colors and icons and graphics, those things should reinforce your thematic concept. But I actually think it's a really good idea to start with the story and understand that that's where we get the depth in a theme.
Many thanks to Jess for sharing lots of ideas and inspiration on developing your yearbook theme this year. Make your book a much more interesting read this year, and again, have a lot of fun doing it. Yes, covering stories and covering reactions from students to news happening around them should be an important part of any yearbook every year. Think about it, kids have opinions on news topics just like everybody else, right? And this year is a unique year like no other. So what about telling those stories? Recently, we talked with a top advisor from Missouri who gave us some great insights.
Hi, my name is Mitch Eden, and I'm the yearbook advisor at Kirkwood High School in St. Louis, Missouri. Well, covering people simply, we have a kind of a mantra in our program. It's who will be the face of your story. English class, you write about topics. Journalism's all about people. So instead of saying you're assigned to homecoming or you're assigned to covering science class, you're assigned that topic, but then your goal is to find a face to the story. So we're always covering people. So a strong emphasis on connection with our student body and our community so that we're finding common experiences that we can share through the lens of a person. That way everyone feels connected. So that's the goal with people. With news, pretty much comes down to we have to timestamp our year. And I'm talking yearbooks in particular. If we're not covering things outside of the norm, we know we're going to have our sports, our academics, our clubs, our our dances, plays. We know that's the core of the book. That's 75%. But it's the other 25% that I think makes your book special. And to me, that's time-stamping the year with news, with pop culture, with politics, entertainment, fashion, technology, and really all the things kids are talking about. I always say you have a yearbook, and I always challenge my staff, how are you going to toast it, make it special? And I think you do that through that 25% of covering news. Get your kids involved, because to me, that will excite them, because it isn't the normal traditional coverage. And I would challenge them to come up with ways to present this in the book. It does not have to be a spread for every topic. You could place a timeline along the bottom of your portrait section or your reference or your index. You could create a special bonus bar on every other spread that chronicles this news development, this pop culture. So I would use it as a exciting brainstorming tool to make our book special. Like how can we incorporate these things that kids are talking about that matters to them, and use it as a challenge to the staff to make their book really showcase this type of content. We start every Monday class with what's going on, and we simply just talk about what kids are talking about. It's not only events at school, like we cover the athletic events that are coming up the week, the play that just happened over the weekend and what kids were talking about, the festival in Kirkwood, the Green Tree Festival. But then also on just 2 days ago, yesterday, kids were talking about the Kanye and Drake releases that just came out music-wise. They were talking about the latest buzz on Netflix, Ted Lasso on Apple TV. So right there we have music and movies. They were talking about the political, the tax debt, the abortion law in Texas. And I know some of those topics scare advisors, but I think if you handle topics with care and responsibility, you can put facts into yearbooks. It doesn't necessarily have to be opinions on topics. It's just kind of chronicling what's going on. And we also take it in this perspective. What's going on at Kirkwood High School? What's going on in the city of Kirkwood, in the state of Missouri, in the United States, and around the world? So if you can kind of take it every week in that kind of process, you start to develop ideas. And then it's just how will we implement and record these ideas? Is it in a timeline? Is it in a monthly spread that we can just kind of do a smattering of events? And I think the key is doing a variety. You don't want to be all hard news. You don't want to be all fluff feature stuff. I think it's a mixture, and your goal is to provide something of interest to every one of your readers. And I think by talking about it each week and coming up with a plan of implementation, I think you can do that.
Many thanks to Mitch for his thoughts and tips. He's been leading his staff for over 25 years, and you saw some great examples there of terrific storytelling about their students in their yearbooks recently. At his school, a lot of students look forward to reading the yearbook every year and then for the rest of their lives. Well, for any year, but especially for this challenging school year, you might think it's tough to try some new creative ideas for your book. But there are lots of great ideas out there. And recently we talked to a Jostens expert who shared some ideas that any staff can try.
Hello, my name is Rick Brooks. I'm Jostens Creative Design Manager. I'm actually part of our creative accounts team with Tina Cleveland, Jeff Moffitt, Liz Walsh, Brian Martinez, and of course Casey Nichols and Margaret Soros. I'm actually based in Port Matilda, Pennsylvania, and I travel just about all over the country doing design support for schools, a lot of colleges, a lot of high schools, pretty much everywhere. The pandemic has affected, I think it's color. The pandemic has really affected color and a little bit with font too. But the way it affected design is there's kind of a retro 90s vibe right now for 2022 with larger, brighter colors or a whole palette of subdued colors. And that's kind of where the pandemic affected things. There's a very interesting trend with duotones, those images where you have a black and white photo that's maybe green with another color image on top of it. Kind of that Spotify effect. I don't know if you remember the Spotify thing where there'd be a blue monotone on top of a green background or a purple monotone on top of a yellow background. A very interesting look. And anytime you get a chance to look at any of those Spotify type things, that's definitely had some influence. And a lot of things that people see on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, whatever, those things do definitely have an effect with design internationally. A lot of stuff with fonts too, where people are experimenting with fonts and maybe altering them a little bit, doing stuff to them, not putting them on the straight baseline, using lowercase letters mixed with uppercase letters, a lot of experimentation. But there is also a huge trend right now. It's kind of a yearning for mature design. And we're seeing students do things that are very, very professional looking. Subdued colors with really very mature design techniques in it, not sloppy at all, on purpose, very refined. But then you have the opposite side of that, almost a grunge look that's coming into style right now, where things are deliberately anti-design. There's like a whole anti-design trend where it's not really made to communicate. It's made as a piece of art. And like I said, all these kind of things maybe fit together and maybe they don't fit together. Maybe they're completely isolated and completely separate, but there will be schools that have a tendency to fit some of these things together. That entire Memphis design style started 2019, 2018. It was really very, very popular. It looks like Saved by the Bell. It's that kind of stuff. This is actually an image from Bryant High School, and that is Memphis design. You can see all those little pieces of artwork that are mixed into that design. Well, that, even though this was a 2020 book, that trend is what's popular for 2022. The whole burnishing technique is relatively new, just a couple years old, and it's very, very popular because you can do so much with this technique. This is actually called accent fleck glitter, and you can see that clear surface on that cover has little tiny flecks, almost tiny like granite dust, in the actual gloss paint there, and it just shimmers. this is actually a printed material, and it actually has a holographic surface on it.
Wow.
So that background is literally gray, with a lot of art on it that actually has color in it. But for this particular design, it was the perfect choice. Actually, retro design just means older design that comes back, and design always does that. It always cycles back. Everything always cycles back. We did have a little different thing happen for 2020 because we had the retro 20s thing that came back. And there's still a little bit of that out there because we are still in the 20s, but the retro 80s and 70s design was really very popular in 2021. But this I'm talking about for 2022, and it's this retro 90s stuff. And that's where those colors come into play, both palettes, the subtle and the very, very bright, powerful one.
Thanks again to Rick for sharing lots of tips and strategies for some great creative ideas for your book this year. Rick has been at this for well over 3 decades, and all it takes are some basic creative changes for you to have a terrific yearbook this year. Well, we don't normally touch this subject this early in a new year, but of course this is another crazy year, right? The subject is recruiting new staffers for next year, and it's something you may want to do sooner rather than later. Recently, we spoke with one of our terrific Jostens creative accounts managers with ideas on what to do.
Hi, my name is Elizabeth Walsh, and I'm a Jostens creative accounts manager from Las Vegas, Nevada. There are a lot of schools who wait and they start later. They finish the yearbook and then they start recruiting for the next year, or they finish the school year and start recruiting in August. And I think that that's a huge mistake, because I think that by the time that students are coming into school, they're already ready for what they had imagined their schedule was going to be. So starting early and promoting and sharing what is going on in the yearbook class and having a great time, even if you're not actively recruiting. I was kind of a hardcore teacher because I wanted things done a certain way. I wanted that staff to be gelled by the time that we had spring break. So even if you're not doing something that overt, what you could be doing is using social media and putting out little snippets, little tidbits of all the fun you're having in yearbook. And actually do some fun activities in yearbook. Do a yearbook scavenger hunt. And that scavenger hunt is a fun photo scavenger hunt, and students can have a great time with that. But build the excitement and let people know all the cool stuff you're doing in yearbook, and then they want to be a part of yearbook. If you're not really advertising the fun that you're having, nobody will know how much fun it can be. So it's, as with anything that you do, if other people don't know about it, they're not going to join. It's just one of those things. You've got to get the word out. One of the things that we would do is have students on staff recommend students who were not yet on staff. Students know how other students work. They know kind of what their schedule is. They have a good time with, being important enough to recognize someone else as being a good worker. So at least, have an open house. Gosh, that would be kind of fun. Have people come in and take a look at what you're doing on a deadline afternoon, or during lunch, or during an after-school meeting, and just let them see how much fun it actually is. Let them see what you're doing, so they're like, well, I could do that. I love taking photos, or I don't mind talking to strangers. I'll go talk to strangers all day long. Those kinds of kids, you want them to have that opportunity, and maybe they just don't know about it. Yearbooks are the story of the school, the whole school. Your student roster, whoever shows up, they're part of your school. They all have a story to tell, and they have other friends who have stories to tell as well. One of the greatest things that you can do is simply find what they're good at. Allow them to sort of sample from the smorgasbord of all the different activities that there are in your book, and then allow them to pursue what they really truly enjoy. I've had students on my yearbook staff who are severely handicapped. They were able to do certain things though, and so we had them work on the things they could achieve. And I think that's so important. Everybody in your whole school is valuable. They may not be the #1 according to the GPA, but that doesn't mean that they can't be #1 in your heart, and they can't be great at something in yearbook. As a matter of fact, I'm pretty sure pretty much everybody in your whole school could be good at yearbook.
Everybody.
Yeah, Heck yeah. I mean, everybody wants to participate in some form or fashion. It's finding what they're excited about. So let them do some experimentation. Let them take some different types of pictures. Have them up on a chair and down on the floor and taking a picture at table level. Let them try it out. And once they do those kinds of things, and then you get to see the photos and you're like, wow, those are actually really cool. You just paid that kid a compliment, a big compliment. That's huge. And that can go a long way to forming a bond with that student and being the person who recognizes value, or maybe they don't see value in themselves. So Yearbook is for everybody. It really can be, and it should be.
Thanks as always to Liz for great insights on yearbooking. She was a longtime national award-winning yearbook advisor who now serves as a Jostens Creative Accounts Manager serving yearbook staffs all over the country. And follow her advice. It's probably a good idea to start your recruiting efforts sooner rather than later. Well, we know the last 2 years have been incredibly challenging, not just for Yearbook, but for schools and education in general, and the effects will be felt for years. Morale still pretty low in many schools for students and for adult staff. The question is, can your yearbook effort do things to help your entire school? Recently, we talked with one of our Jostens Renaissance leaders on how your yearbooking could make a big difference.
Hi, I'm Sarah Sosker, and I am Director of Renaissance Education and Yearbook Customer Experience for Jostens, based in Minneapolis, Minnesota. At Jostens, we often say that yearbook is extremely Renaissance-y because what a yearbook does is encapsulate the experiences that happen throughout the school year and show them back to the student body. It shows them the friends they made, the academics, the clubs, the activities, the things that happened at that school that were special, their points of connection to the school, and provides it to the students and the teachers in a way that they can touch and feel and share with each other. So, I mean, I really feel strongly that the yearbook is an extraordinary culture building product for a school in general. Dr. Philip Campbell, PC, who's a speaker for Renaissance on my team, he says something that I think is absolutely true. In every presentation, he says that every student wants to be seen, heard, and loved. What better vehicle for showing those things than a yearbook? Every single student, through inclusive coverage, can see that they are seen, heard, and loved as a part of that community. Put them in the book. I mean, it takes a little bit of creativity sometimes, but through lots of photos, you've got to plan ahead and get lots of photos, but also quotes from participants, quotes from observers. Those are ways to get people in who don't necessarily want to be photographed. And so I think those are the two primary ways. I mean, I can't talk enough about the importance of strong coverage. We always talk about every student should be in the yearbook 3 times. Yes, yes, yes. Photos, quotes, stories. And I think that the best tool you've got is the coverage report there. And I would say that I'm a believer in a public and physical manifestation of that as well, kind of like we say with yearbook ladders. It's great to have it in Yearbook Avenue, but the power of making a paper ladder, hanging it on the wall, and then crossing things off as they're submitted is really powerful emotionally. And same goes for the coverage report. It's so easy and convenient to track it in Yearbook Avenue, but a lot of schools also hang up, they'll run copies, lists of all the students, and then do a little tick mark next to them each time they're in the book. So they can physically see in a public way, without any effort, how many kids are in the book and how many times they're in the book. That way, if you see that, you know, Scott Geezy's in there 15 times, but Jenny Johnson is in 0 times, you can easily see, oh my gosh, Jenny's not going to feel very good about that. We need to find a way to interview her or get a photo of her. I really think that one of the keys to life is habits. It's not necessarily hard to do. I think a lot of the times things feel like a heavy lift because we've procrastinated. When things are a consistent part of your daily life, it tends to be a lot easier to get them done. So if you always have a camera around your neck, or it's your habit to go out and get 3 quotes a day from each student, each student on your staff needs to go out and get 3 quotes, or whatever it is that you need to do to meet your own goals, as long as you're just biting off these tiny little chunks every single day, it's going to make it much easier and it won't feel like a burden. And by the way, your students are going to feel seen, heard, and loved.
A big thank you to Sarah for taking some time to show that Yearbook should be way more than just making pages in a book. Sarah is a former yearbook professional, so she knows that your storytelling can have a huge impact on everybody in your school, and it's needed now more than ever. Well, as we look ahead to next year, is your yearbook staff actively using social media? Actively meaning a lot, every week, even more often than that. Frankly, most yearbook staffs don't, but it's an important part of your storytelling arsenal. Recently, we had a chance to talk to the leader of our Jostens social division about the importance of using social media with your yearbooking effort.
Hi everyone, my name is Kristen Johnson. I'm the Senior Manager of Social Media and Influencer Marketing for Jostens Yearbooks, and I am based in Minneapolis, Minnesota. I think social media is for everyone. Social really is, how we're building community these days. Social media is basically fundamentally shifting the way we communicate with each other. Social media really was built for Yearbook. They go hand in hand. Facebook actually was built from a yearbook. If you didn't know, Facebook, it's literally in the name, book. And so, social can really help tell that year-long story of Yearbook by just creating awareness for students and parents on social, and also just for faculty as well. One thing that's super important in Yearbook is inclusivity. And social media actually allows for more inclusivity within the yearbook because you're able to actually ask people for content on social, and maybe you're able to find some of those student voices that maybe you don't always get photos of, or they're able to share their opinions through polls and different things like that on social. I really recommend that you start with one, you get really good at that one platform, and then if there's interest, then you expand to the other ones. But there's probably never going to be a point where you're on every single one. The one that I do recommend that you for sure start with is Instagram. And the reason for that is because, everyone tends to be on Instagram. It's kind of the one where everyone meets in the middle. You're able to talk to parents, you're able to talk to faculty, you're able to talk to students, all on that one platform. And on that platform as well, there's stories, there's still photography, there's video, and so there's multiple ways that you're able to kind of tell a story. So I think Instagram is a great one. From there, definitely Facebook is another avenue you could go if you want to speak more to that parent audience, especially when it comes to potentially, driving more book sales and being more promotional there. And then on the other side of things, from like a student perspective, I think TikTok could be another just fun channel that you could experiment with. And, documenting, your yearbook processes, or, showing, some of your yearbook students, in the classroom, or, Yearbook Plus, you could demonstrate how that actually works through a TikTok video. We just launched this past school year, and so we're really excited about it. And so basically we have an application process. So we basically want students that are super interested in Jostens and, potentially, having a marketing degree in their future, or communications degree of some sort. And so we definitely are encouraging students, both high school and college students, to fill out an application. And then on our end, we'll kind of sort through those and, see if you're a good fit for us. And then, we would love to potentially work with you on, promoting Jostens, both our yearbook products, but then also, we have grad apparel and rings and all that stuff. So it's a really fun, unique opportunity.
A big thank you to Kristen for taking time to share some great advice about using social media with your yearbooking effort next year. And if you're somehow not familiar yet with the Jostens social online engine, you need to check this out. Social media done easy peasy. Jostens representative for more information on Jostens Social. Well, we hope you got tons of great information from all those terrific interview clips from Season 4 of the Yearbooking Report. Don't forget our podcast series on all the major outlets, full interviews with all of our guests featuring even more great information and inspiration. And as always, thanks again for watching.